We're doing we are doing the 7th grade semester exam study guide. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, it is just asking us to write the integer. So an integer is just a positive or negative number. So it says a climber descends is a key word, descends 3 miles into the canyon. What integer represents the descent of her climb? Descend just means go down. So if she went down 3 miles, that integer is going to be a negative 3. Okay, number 2. Write the decimal equivalent for 5/8. Is it a terminating decimal or a repeating decimal? To figure out what the decimal equivalent is, we're just dividing this. This is a simple division problem. So we're going to put the top number in the house and divide by the bottom number. So 5 goes in the house divided by 8. 8 cannot go into 5, so we put a 0, put a decimal, and then annex a 0. 8 goes into 50 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. Subtract 50 minus 48 is 2. Annex another 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 20 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract, we get 4. Annex another 0, bring it down. And 8 goes into 40 5 times, and 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract, we get 0. So our answer for this one is 0 and 625 thousandths. It is a terminating decimal. Terminating just means it ends. So if it ends, it is a terminating decimal. Now, if it went on and on and on, it is a repeating decimal. Okay, it has to be the same number that repeats for it to be a repeating decimal. So this is a terminating decimal because it ends with the number 5. Okay. Number 3, find the sum. Sum is just the answer to an addition problem. So find the sum of negative 6 plus negative 8. When we have two negative numbers that we are adding them together, we just add them together like we normally would with positive numbers, but our answer is going to be a negative number. So negative 6 plus a negative 8 is going to be negative 14. Now there's another way you can think about this. If you are at negative 6 on a number line and you are adding negative 8, if we are adding a negative, it pushes you down. It's like adding a weight to a balloon or something. If we add a weight to a balloon, it goes down. So if we add a negative, it goes down. So if we are at negative 6 and we go down 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we go down to negative 14. And you can even count these off to the side. If you need to draw yourself a number line, you feel free to do that because that will help you get the correct answer. Okay, so the answer to 3 is negative 14. The answer to number 4, we have negative 1 minus 7. And so we have a negative minus a positive. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. If we are on a number line and we are at negative 1 and we subtract 7 positives, we are going down. 7. So we can go down the number line. Subtracting a positive is the same thing as adding a negative. They seem like opposites, but they're actually the same thing. So if we're at negative 1 and we subtract 7, we go down to negative 8. The way that your regular math teachers do this is they do click, click. So we have negative 1 minus 7. We're going to click, change the subtraction to addition, and change the sign of the second number. Now we have negative 1 plus a negative 7. Again, if we're adding two negatives together, we're just going to add them like normal, and our answer will be negative. So either way, you get the answer negative 8. So number 3 was negative 14, and number 4 was negative 8. Our last one, number 5, that I'm going to do before I clear this, is negative 7 times times a positive 14. So when we are multiplying with integers, multiplying with positive and negative numbers, you just multiply like normal, and then we'll count our negative signs and get our answer. So 14 times 7, 7 times 4 is 28. Carry the 2. 7 times 1 is 2. No, 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. And then we need to count our negative sign. So we have one negative sign, so our answer is going to be negative. If you have an odd number of negative signs, your answer is negative. If you have an even number of negative signs, your answer is positive. The way that you do this in regular math is, I think a lot of you have memorized, a negative times a negative is a positive, or a negative times a positive is a negative. Either way, whatever helps you remember this, our answer here is negative 98. Write this down. If you need to pause this video at any time, feel free to do that. Number 6, it says, does the table show the proportional relationship between x and y and explain? To find out if this is a proportional relationship, we need to divide all of our y's by our x's. For this portion, I will allow you guys to use a calculator. For questions 1 through 5 on your semester exam, you will not be allowed to use a calculator. But for this portion, you will be able to. Okay, so we have our y's, which is 600, divided by our x, which is 200. And then we have 400. I'll do this underneath. 400. Nope. That's our x. Our y is 1200 divided by our x, which is 400. And then we have 1500, which is our y, divided by our x, which is 500. So when we have a proportional relationship, when you divide your y's divided by your x's, you get the same answer every time. So that's what we're looking for. Divide y by x, y divided by x, y divided by x. And if you get the same answer, it's proportional. If it is not the same answer each time, it is not proportional. So 600 divided by 200 gives us 3. 1200 divided by 400 gives us 3, and 1500 divided by 500 gives us 3. So we did get the same answer each time. So your answer is going to be proportional. And then when it says to explain, you need to explain why that is the case. It is proportional because when dividing y by x, you get the same answer. Each time. Okay, number 7. We are just looking at the graph, and it says, is the following graph proportional or not? Explain. When looking at a graph, if it's a straight line, and it passes through 0, 0, which is our origin, if it is a straight line that goes through 0, 0, it is proportional. So this graph is proportional, and to explain, because it asks us to explain, it is proportional because it is a straight line that does not pass through the origin. Okay, let's move on to number 8. Find 57% of 690. So when we are trying to find percents of numbers, remember is over of equals percent over 100. This is the little formula that's going to help you out. So we already know that our percent needs to go over 100. 100 will always be in the bottom right corner, and the percent will always go over 100. So we have 57%, so that percent will go over 100. Our of is of 690, so that will go in the of position in the bottom left. So we are missing our is, and that is what we are trying to find. So that will go above the of. Once you have these numbers in place, you can simply cross multiply and divide. So we are cross multiplying 690 times 57, and 100 times x is 100x. 690 times 57 is 39,330. And we are going to solve this by dividing both sides by 100. This cancels, and we're left with x is equal to 39,330 divided by 100. And we get 393 and 3/10. So 57% of 690 is 393 and 3/10. Number 9, it says 30 is what percent of 50? Again, we are using is over of equals percent over 100. It says what percent. So we are looking for the percent, which means our x needs to be over 100. 30 is, so that is our is, which needs to go on top. And of 50 means that 50 needs to go on bottom. So again, we're cross multiplying. 30 times 100 equals 50 times x, which is 50x. 30 times 100 is 3,000. And 50 times x is 50x. We are going to solve this by dividing both sides by 50. This cancels, and we are left with x is equal to 3,000 divided by 50. Oh, yep, 3,000 divided by 50. And we are left with 60. Remember, we are talking about percent, so I want my percent sign behind the number 60 because it says what percent. If it is asking you for the percent, then you need to make sure that you have your percent sign. So 60% is that answer. Okay, number 10. Jessa's softball team won 8 games last month and 10 this month. What was the percent of change in games the team won? Was it an increase or decrease? So when we do percent of change, you want the amount of change to go on top and the original amount, which is the first amount, to go on bottom. And then you want your percent over 100 still. So we want the amount of change, which means we need to subtract the 2. So 10 minus 8 will give me the amount of change. So that number is going on top. The original number is our first number, which is 8. That will go on bottom. And then we have percent over 100. We don't know the percent yet, and we do know that 100 goes in the bottom right. So again, we're cross multiplying. 2 times 100 is 200, and 8 times x is 8x. We will solve this by dividing both sides by 8. This cancels, and I'm left with x is equal to 200 divided by 8, which gives us 25. And we are looking for the percent, so it's going to be 25%. It did ask, was this an increase or a decrease? Well, we went from 8 to 10, and when you go from 8 to 10, you go up or you increase. So our answer is 25% increase. Okay, for number 11, it says it wants us to simplify the expression. When we simplify expressions, we want to combine like things with like things. If they have the same variable, you want to put them together. If they are both constants, which means they don't have a variable, then you want to put those numbers together. You cannot put together numbers that have variables with numbers that don't. They don't go together. It's like apples and oranges. You can't put them together and make them the same thing. So we have -6 plus -2d plus -4d plus 3d. Well, we see that all of these variables have the same variable, which is d, and then we have the number -6. The -6 isn't going to change because I don't have anything to add or subtract from that. It's just a constant by itself. So then we are going to figure out what these numbers combine to. -2d plus -4d. We've got, excuse me, -2d plus -4d actually gives us a -6d. And then we're adding that to 3d. So we have -6 and we're adding 3 to that. It actually combines to a -3d. So I'm just going to put that right behind here, -3d. If you wanted to put this as -6 plus -3d, you could do that as well. Adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting. So either one of these would be correct answers. You don't have to have both of them. But again, the most important part of this is to combine like terms. Put together things that go together. All things with like things with like things. That's how my mom taught me to clean my room. Okay, number 12. Uni loaned $400 to her brother. He will repay the loan by paying 2.5% simple interest for 3 years. How much will he pay in interest? To do simple interest, we are just going to multiply the amount by the interest. I'll just use the multiplication symbol. Times 2.5% times 3 years. Now, the most important part here is number 1, your years must be in years. They can't be in months. If they are in months, you need to divide it by 12 in order to make them years. And also, the percent cannot be left as a percent. You have to change that to a decimal. In order to change a percent to a decimal, you need to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So we're going to move this 2 places to the left, and we need to annex a 0 here in the empty bucket. So really we're multiplying 400 times 0.025 times 3, because I know it's already in years, so I don't have to change the 3. And then you could just put that part in your calculator. 400 times 0.025, 25 thousandths times 3, and that gives us 30. And we are talking about money here, so it's really just $30. Okay, and number 13, we are using the distributive property. It is 2 5/10. We are multiplying that by negative 4x plus 9. You multiply the number on the outside by both of the numbers or variables on the inside. So negative, or 2.5 times negative 4x. I'm just going to put in 2.5 into my calculator, and then I'm going to multiply it times negative 4 to see what I get. And that's negative 10. So negative 2.5 times negative 4x is negative 10x. And 2.5 times 9 is 22 5/10. And if this was positive, you're just going to put a plus sign. If our answer was negative, you would put a minus sign. So that's our answer. That's as far as we can combine them, because one has a variable of x and the other number does not. So remember, you cannot add or subtract numbers with variables to numbers that do not have variables. Okay, number 14 is asking us to factor the expression. When we factor expressions, I use the birthday cake method. And the reason I call it that is because we're doing tiers here, like a birthday cake. So we need to think of what number can go into both 14b and 28. And the number that comes off the top of my head is 7. I know 7 goes into both of these numbers. And then you think of what can you multiply times 7 to give you 14b. Well, 7 times 2 gives me 14, so 7 times 2b gives me 14b. And then you need to think what times 7 gives me 28. Well, 7 times 4 gives me 28. Remember to bring down your plus sign here. We are not finished, because I know that 2 will go into both 2b and 4. So I can take 2 out also. 2 times 1b will give me 2b, and 2 times 2 will give me 4. Bring down your plus sign. Now, I have nothing else to take out other than 1. If I took 1 out, that would be fine, but it would still give me 1b plus 2, which I know I'm done because I've written the same thing twice, so I know I'm officially done. When you have more than one number off to the side here, you just multiply all those numbers together. 7 times 2 is 14, and 14 times 1 is 14. So our answer is 14, but on the inside of the parentheses, you want this part, 1b plus 2. So it asked us to factor the expression, so our answer is 14 on the outside, 1b plus 2 on the inside of our parentheses. You're basically doing the opposite of the distributive property. The distributive property, you are trying to combine them to make a more simplified expression. This one, you are trying to take that simplified expression and unsimplify it, essentially. Okay, so number 15 is 12x minus 9. And again, we're going to do the same exact thing because it's asking us to factor the expression. Okay, so we need to think of a number that goes into both 12x and 9. And the number that goes into both of those is 3. 3 goes into 12x 4. Well, 3 goes into 12 4 times. So 3 goes into 12x 4x times. And 3 goes into 9 3 times. Bring down your subtraction symbol. There is not a number other than 1 that I can take out of this to make it true. So I need to multiply my two numbers on the outside. 3 times 1 is 3. And my answer on the inside of my parentheses is going to be 4x minus 3. So I have 3 on the outside of my parentheses and 4x minus 3 on the inside of my parentheses. Okay, number 16. We are subtracting linear expressions. So when we do this, we have 6x plus 5. And we are subtracting 8x minus 9. Remember, when we are subtracting, you may want to go ahead and just click, which means changing the subtraction to addition and changing the sign of the whole second parentheses. So now instead of 8x, this is a negative 8x, and instead of a negative 9, this is now a positive 9. So once we have changed that, it is just like we are adding linear expressions, which makes it a lot easier. So we have 6 x's. I'm actually going to draw out 6 x's. 5, 6, and I have 5 positives, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Over here I have 8 negative x's, so I'm going to write out 8 negative x's. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, good. And I have 9 positives, so I'm going to draw out my 9 positives. 9. Okay, so now here is the part where I can cross cancel. I can cancel out every positive with a negative. So if it has a positive and a negative, I'm going to cancel that one out. So here is a positive and a negative x. I can cancel that. A positive and a negative x. And continue to do that until you have canceled every positive with a negative. All I'm left with down here is 2 negative x's. Over here, I don't have anything to cancel, so we are just adding all of these positives together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That is 14 positives, so we will put a plus 14. So the answer to number 16 is negative 2x plus 14. Number 17, we are adding linear expressions. It's it's a little bit easier than subtracting linear expressions because we don't have to click beforehand. We can just start adding. So we have negative 3c plus 4. Okay, so we have 2 negative c's, so I'm going to draw out my negative c's. And we have 7 negative signs, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Over here we have 3 negative c's, so 1, 2, and 3. And we have 4 positives, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, we are going to cancel out every positive with a negative. We don't have any positive c's to cancel out with a negative, so we have actually 5 negative c's. And over here we do have positives and negatives that can cancel. And we are left with 3 negatives, so minus 3. You could also put negative 5c plus a negative 3, and that would work too. Either one of these are correct answers. Okay, number 18, we are solving the two-step equation. 2y plus 3 equals 19. To start this, I'm going to draw my line down for my equal sign, and I'm going to start on the side with my variable, but start with the number without. We're actually undoing the PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We're going to start with the addition and subtraction portion first so that we can work our way back to the answer. Right now, it is being added to 3, so the opposite of that is actually subtract. So we want to start by subtracting both sides by 3. This is going to cancel because 3 minus 3 is 0. And we are left with 2y on the left and 19 minus 3, which is 16 on our right. And now y is being multiplied by 2, so to get it by itself, we need to do the opposite to get rid of the 2. And so we're going to divide both sides by 2. This cancels, and I'm left with y equals 16 divided by 2, which is 8. So y equals 8. Okay, number 19. Okay, we are solving the inequality. X minus 19 is greater than 81. I'm going to draw my line down. Whoa! It just made my picture really large on accident. Okay, let's try that again. We're going to draw a line down from the inequality side. Right now, x is being subtracted to 19, so the opposite of that is adding 19 to both sides. And this is going to cancel on this side. We are left with x is greater than 81 plus 19. 1 plus 9 is 10. Carry the 1. 1 and 8 is 9 plus 1 is 10. So our answer is x is greater than 100. Now number 20 tells us to graph the solution from number 19 on this number line. So I'm going to start by putting 100 in the middle, and I'm going to put 101 and 102 on the right, and 99, which is 1 less, and 98, which is 1 less than that, on the left. So I'm going to circle 100, I'm not going to color it in. Because this is just greater than, you don't have to color it in. You're going to color it in if it is a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to sign, and you will leave it open if it's just greater than or less than. Because it is not including 100, it just says that x is going to be greater than 100. It does not say that x is going to be equal to 100. That's why we are circling it and leaving it open. But it does say that it is greater than 100, so we want to shade in the direction of all the numbers that are greater than 100. So 101, 102, and make this arrow a lot bigger so that it shows that we're going to keep going as long as this line goes on, because all of those numbers will be greater than 100. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.